Welcome everyone to the podcast. It's me, Zero, here with
Fighter.
Rye.
VashieV.
And today we're talking about Ex-Aid episode 21, entitled Pursue the Mystery. The episode starts with a detective interrogating Dan Masamune, and the detective suddenly comes down with the game virus. We then go to the CR where Imu is exhausted. Zero is tough on him during surgical training that day. And it turns out Dan Kuroto had suggested that the genius gamer M to be scouted into CR, according to Poppy, which is a thing.
What a twist no one asked for.
That's so completely true. That was not needed for any reason. So any thoughts up to this point, Rye?
So, first off, to clarify, in case anyone listening to this is confused, Kuroto Dan is Kamen Rider Gem, who transforms with Dangerous Zombie, and Masamune Dan is his father, who Kuroto framed for his own crime or whatever and got him arrested. I just wanted to get that on the table.
Pretty much for future reference, be Dan and Dan. That's how I'm gonna, unless I just switch to Genom.
Anything, Zero?
Yeah, I'm just gonna go with Dan and Dan Senior because I'm not freaking gonna remember it unless he becomes a big enough character, which I thought he was going to, but he's not the CEO guy because he's still locked up. So I'm not sure how long Dan Senior is gonna stick around.
Okay, so the next thing that happens, so Emu wonders why Kuroto Dan suggested him, but Hiro says that as doctors, the duty is to help patients, not to solve mysteries. Hiro, Emu, and Poppy are called to the police station where the detective the game virus is, and they try to take him back to CR, but he refuses and instead demands to see Dan Sr. But this makes his game virus act up, and the bugster emerges. At this point, Hiro goes level 5 full dragon, and Emu goes level X. They do a stage select, and they go to the Ninja Dojo.
So, a couple episodes ago when Brave Hero got the Tattle Fantasy Gashat, after kicking Genom's ass, Genom dropped 2 Gashats, one of which was Tattle Quest. I assumed the other one was Doremi Beat, but I guess it was Drago Knight Hunter.
Well, that makes sense, since the 2 critical finishes he was doing at that time were Drago Knight and Tattle.
I guess I didn't notice that.
So anything on this so far?
I'm liking the fact that they're not just jumping to level 50 off the bat. I like the fact that he's like, I've got this now, so I'm gonna use the older one.
Well, also at this point, Taiga is the one in possession of the level 50 Gashat.
Yeah, it's nice that they're switching it. I didn't think that Hiro actually gave it to Taiga, but whatever. I guess if he really needs it, he can get it back. Also, here's all doctors aren't for solving mysteries. I'm like, did you watch None of House? What were you doing in America, Hiro?
I forgot that he was in America. At this point...
Sorry, I'm just imagining Hiro sitting down watching Scrubs. But with the same usual serious expression. He's not laughing at it, he's just watching it.
I want him to tilt his head slightly till all this song man plays in the...
So yeah, Zombie Genom is also there, but he states that Ex-Aid isn't his opponent this time, and he turns to shoot Snipe, who enters the game area at that moment, who is actually already level 50. Ex-Aid and Brave launch finishers at the Bugster, but they don't quite defeat it, and the Bugster retreat back into the detective. Genom and Snipe launch finishers at each other, but Snipe being level 50 and Genom being level 10, Snipe overpowers Genom, retrieves the Bang Bang shooting Gashat, and Genom retreats, giving the warning that if they don't want to end up like Kiria, they should avoid poking their noses into strange matters. Anything at this point?
So when Taiga first shot a Gashat out of him, I thought that he shot the Girigiri Chambara Gashat, which kind of got me excited. But then I later realized that it was Bang Bang shooting, and I got a little disappointed.
Okay, what I was gonna say is like, yeah, it's interesting that they're fighting it out and like, I don't know, I guess that fight's later with Peridot, but I guess I can say my bit. It's like, Taiga's handling that Gashat a hell of a lot better than like, basically any of the level 50s. Like, even better than, I don't know, I guess like the closest is Peridot, and that's what shows up in their fight later on, but like, yeah, he's doing a pretty decent job. But like, man, there's a lot of fights in this damn episode. It's kind of hard to remember. Also, like, yeah, we start the Kiryu train right off the bat by that asshole man. Like, yes, of course he's gonna be the first one to bring up Kiryu.
So, at this point, Kuroto retreats back to his lair, which we don't see the back of his computer, so we don't know if he's finally plugged it in yet. But he says he's retrieved most of the death data and that he only needs to receive lethal damage for get him to awaken to level X, which is that unknown number. The detective awakens to the CR ICU and pushes himself to try and get up and going, and ends up falling on his face, which was a thing, which made me sigh, because I don't like when they try and inject comedy like that. So the reason he's pushing himself so hard is because his son was infected with Game syndrome. Then he disappeared. The Game syndrome issue became a matter for the Ministry of Health, and the detective investigated it privately. The detective wanted to reveal the truth of Zero Day and avenge his son.
Yeah, at first when the detective's talking about his son, I'm like, is he talking about Kiryu? Because, right, like, maybe he's Kiryu's dad, but I'm like, later on with the pictures and stuff, like, yeah, or like, is he, Kiryu's friend's dad? But no, I think his son was just one of the random people who died on Zero Day, or around that time, so I'm like, that's fine. It's better not to like super tie everything so close to like, the main cast, because, it just shows like Zero Day affected a lot more people than we see. And the other thing was like, hey, I've seen this actor before. And I'm like, where did I see it? And it's like two things, or at least two things. I might have seen him more. I don't remember. All I remember are like two shows. He's in Wizard. Yeah, I think he's in. Yeah, he is in Wizard. I think he's. Remember Shunpei has that friend who wanted to be like who was the apprentice to like the manju, like chef or whatever, and he was like the great chef guy. And then yeah, that was actually a really good episode, to be honest, because like you'd think his whole thing, like the thing that'll turn him into despair is just like, having his shop go under and stuff, and it's not that. You find out that like what's actually, his happiness is seeing his like apprentice succeed, and that was actually a pretty good episode. I mean, even for Shunpei and stuff, like in the other show that I definitely know he was in was like for the Wizard one, I think he was the like head chef guy, but I'm not sure.
So,
But
looking at it, he was in Agito as a ramen shop owner in Yao Ranger Quest 34. He was in Abba Ranger. He was in Blade. He was in Ultraman Max. He was a pianist in Dino. He was in Keitai Sozan 7. He was in Decade as, and I translate the one. He was in Makai Senki. Garo Makai Senki. Wizard episodes 12 and 13. He was in
yeah, all I remember him really from is
Double Returns. Axel.
he was in that. Oh, what I was gonna say is shit. I don't even remember any of that. But what I was gonna say is I just watched Keitai 7 like half a year ago or something, or whatever. It's like it was last year sometime, and he's basically the boss of these like loan shark yakuza guys. And they're like reoccurring characters. They're pretty fun. But yeah, he was their like head, like the lead loan shark guy. That was kind of there were like a bunch of not antagonists, just Well, yeah, like small time antagonists for that show. They were interesting. They showed up at least a couple episodes. So yeah, that's what I thought of. But I guess you guys pointed out where he's more from. I mean, he did a really good job in this episode, even with the weird comedy stuff that he had going on. What was up with that?
So Asuna said that she thought the zero-day incident was done with when Dan Sr. was arrested, but the detective says that Dan Sr. said the zero-day was an accident, but he never said why he created the bugster. That two people disagree with time, one being Dan and the other one being Kiria.
So earlier when the detective was talking to Masamune, and he mentioned two people that went missing, I immediately thought of these two people, Kuroto and Kiria. And yes, it's interesting to note that someone died in Kamen Rider, and the police are actually like, hey, we should look into this. That is something that hasn't happened in quite a while, I don't think.
Well, he's a detective, not a cop. And secondly, I'm pretty sure like the ministry probably had pretty good ties with the cops to cover it up.
Honestly, when they mentioned that, these were the two that were missing, I literally forgot that Dan went into hiding. It didn't even register that, oh yeah, he's missing, because we keep seeing him show up everywhere. He is a master ninja, apparently, to be out in public, and nobody recognizes him.
Yeah, he's like Malcolm Merlin. He can just walk around into the middle of downtown and mass murder. He'll be fine.
The best place to hide is in plain sight.
Yeah, not when you look like John Barrowman.
So Emu says that he'll investigate for the detective, so he can retrieve the detective's smile. So Emu deduces that Kiria must have been killed because of something he learned from Dan Senior. I don't know. He goes to Emu goes to try and go see Dan Senior, but Hiro intercepts and goes, "Do you want to end up like Kiria?" And Emu says he just has to know why Kiria was killed. Nico is excited that Taiga got his Gashep back, and Taiga at this point says he will crush him completely. Nico asks how he's going to kill an immortal zombie, and Taiga goes, "I have a way." So anything at this point?
I'm liking that Nico's kind of becoming the, I'm not having none of your shit. You better explain yourself with Taiga. Because it seems more that that's what she's at this point designed for, of, I guess, getting Taiga to explain what he's doing beyond his typical cryptic, I'm gonna win. I have no reasons for this, but I'm gonna win. And her literal job is just to go, why? I don't know. I like that.
I mean, to me, I don't know. I'm not super hyped about that part because like this is the best you could do to further Snipes' character. But my other thing with that is like, yeah, it's cool that they're using Nico more and more. Maybe she'll actually break out on her own eventually or something. But it's good to see, like, yeah, she still has the thing of, like, she's really good at pushing people's buttons, where she gets Sukuru to, like, basically help them make, like, a game to beat Genom. And I'm glad that we don't see her, but then again, like, Snipe keeps teleporting in and out, so that's cool that we see it from the other side, because usually we see it when, from behind the rider, when they're, like, henching in to, like, a new area, but this time we just see, like, oh, somebody just ported in. That explains how Dan keeps showing up, because, he just henshins and just ports in. Or something close to that, anyway. But for me, not seeing Nico, I'm just thinking her and Sukuru are working on, like, this almost as good as Dan programmer and this genius gamer, coming up with a game to beat Dangerous Zombie. That's kind of a cool plot point. Wait, which also means my theory of her creating a game still sort of stands.
So at this point, Dan Senior seems to know about Emu, and Emu tells Dan Senior that Dan killed Kirya and asked for the information that got Kirya killed. At this point, Masamune says, you think you can defeat my son? We then go back to Taiga, who's at Genom Corp, shoving money at him, trying to get him to make a new Gash app. Whatever.
Here's money, make me a game. I knew that they were going to come back to this guy for making future games. I just didn't expect Snipe to be the one to go up front with him for it, and with money.
So true. So like, but do you remember what he did to your friend? I know I hate him, but they make me a game.
I love Nico gut punching him, and it does the hit thing.
Game over. See, I didn't mind that comedy. I don't like the detective falling on his face though.
The detective falling comedy is like that. That's what I had the biggest issue with the first couple episodes involving Emu. I hate the I'm clumsy comedy.
Yes, totally.
Deno made it work, but Ex-Aid does not.
Because it was understandable for his character. Like, even in the fight scenes, it's never Ryotaro and Deno, and when it is, he's terrible. So it passed that believability over as well. I mean, at least to start with, he was.
Yeah.
So it held the character was the same across the board. Whereas I understand the whole split personality thing with games with Emo, it just doesn't hold to me the same way that it did with Deno. Though I'm still trying to figure out where Snipe got all that money. He seems to have no patience except for Nico.
We don't see him treat patients, just like we don't see Taiga doing surgeries.
Well, except when we need to.
But yeah, he's definitely like a black market doctor.
Yeah, I mean, he's Blackjack, bro. You know, world's most expensive doctor. But, yeah, I've got like 2 theories of why that's happening. Or a couple. Okay, so there's the thing of like, you know, why you don't see Hiro doing the surgeries. Like, even from O's, like, you could have seen it. Or definitely Agito and stuff. But I think what's happened is like, yeah, Toei is kind of doing the more kid-friendly thing, so we're not seeing all the more gory shit. And the other thing is, like, I don't think the writers are writing it in, like, a weird way where we only see, like, the Kamen Rider stuff, which, you know, I'm fine with. This show has enough plot as it is. It doesn't need any more unnecessary things. Because, to be honest, like, the gamer, doctor thing, like, the show's doing a well enough job, like, but, like, the doctor thing definitely seems to be a hell of a lot more tacked on, or, you know, not what the real, or I mean, like, maybe the more important part to, I guess, the writers are the contrast between like the gaming world and the writer world, or the doctor and the gaming side is more interesting than the actual doctor stuff and the actual gaming stuff, and that's why we're only just seeing them a little bit. But the other thing could be like, okay, Hero's basically Blackjack, in which case if we're gonna see a case with him on it, or like just do the doctor thing and not like the doctor writer thing, right? He would have to be like a case that Hiro couldn't take over. So like Taiga would have to do it, in which case like the world's greatest surgeon, you know, isn't good enough. And if they did that, then the problem would be then like banishing Taiga was bullshit. Like, he should have kept being a doctor. You had to question, that question will get raised, and you'll get the question of maybe they're trying to show, like, you know, he's an unlicensed doctor, like, he's kind of hinged, but he seems like a cool guy. Like, okay, they don't want, like, another Agito happening, I'm thinking. So it's like, oh, it's this really cool character, you know, like, isn't this badass? But it's like, well, realistically, you don't want to show kids that, like, you know, going to unlicensed doctors and shit is awesome or whatever. So it could just be that side coming into play too. So they're not giving him doctor stuff to do is because if they do, the only reason anybody would show his side as opposed to going to a normal hospital is, one, if they're not good guys, in which case, why would a kid show care if they survived? So why waste the time showing it? or he's gonna do an even better job than Hero would. In which case, you're, you know, taking damaging Hero's character while propping up this not so great aspect of like, being an unlicensed doctor. So it's like it could be a little bit of politics behind the scenes going on here. Why we're not seeing more Taiga doctor stuff, but who knows? Man, like making shit in the real world's complicated.
So I guess at this point we had just gotten out of Taiga trying to get him to make a new gashat, and they're heading back to the hospital. By they I mean Emu and Asuna. And Kuroto, Dan Jr., suddenly appears in front of Asuna and Emu. It just says, "Your dad told us everything." And it's backstory time at this point. It is a long backstory. But it all started with the Y2K problem, which I thought was hilarious. Because Y2K as a writer plot?
Perfect!
So, who wants to explain what Y2K is to the audience?
So, if there's anybody in the audience, which I don't think there will be, but if you don't know what it is, pretty much it was, they were afraid changing from 1999 to 2000 was gonna mess up all the computers.
Well, here's what actually happened. So, in the 90s, when programs were being made to record data and read years, they were made so that they only needed to read the last 2 digits of the year. 97, 98, 99. What comes next? 00. And the problem that occurred was that the 00 was read as 1900.
And that's what Y2K was. It was a small computer glitch that people were freaking out over, which ultimately turned out to be nothing.
Except it created the Buckster virus.
Except it created the Buckster virus. We're just learning this now, 17 years later.
Hey man, Digimon takes time.
And 5 years ago,
I will admit, in terms of ideas for, how the problem of the series, for lack of a better term, comes about was literally the most unique thing I've seen in years.
It's not about Y2K because nothing happened with it.
Right.
I know, that's the best part. It's like, how do you write it alternate universe? Oh yes, Y2K actually did something.
Right, and
Y2K was a super huge problem.
And it did nothing. It did nothing but infect one computer. That was, to me, that was the best thing about it. Is it did nothing but infect one computer.
Well, we don't know if it was just one computer.
Well, during the backstory is like
one.
Yeah, but Dan said it had only infected that one computer.
Did he only say it was only that one?
Yes. That was one thing I specifically caught when I watched the episode.
No, he just caught it.
What's important is that it was Dan's computer, yeah.
Yeah, which is okay. That's so weird. Not weird, but like it shows like how smart he is, but it's also the thing of like, how did nobody else notice this random thing?
Who said nobody else noticed?
Yeah, fair enough. I guess the health... no, because why would they be monitoring the computer? Like, I mean, the health ministry probably got involved later on. I mean, maybe somebody did, and that's the other CEO.
So we did find out that 0J was caused by Dan Jr., who then blamed it all on his father. And then, at this point, pretty much, Dan loses it. He just goes insane. Just starts laughing maniacally. Kind of funny.
The only thing I was thinking about that scene is like, yeah, that code is freaking nonsense. I mean, have you seen Ryuki where they're like, yes, let's code a computer virus, and they're just basically coding CSS, which is freaking hilarious. But that episode was great. Right. Yeah, Dan loses his shit when he's on the bridge, right? That's what you're talking about?
He's on the bridge and he just loses.
Yeah, okay. Normally when we do a shouting scene, it's like, alright, the actor's gonna be loud, and we're gonna put like a mic off away from the camera, but it'll still be on the bridge. But this time it's like, nah, we're putting the camera down on the footpath underneath with the two actors, and Dan's gonna stand up there and yell like a crazy person. And I'm like, and the way they cut to it, I'm like, did they just tell him to yell and he actually yelled and picked it up and they're like, fuck it, we're rolling with it. We're doing this live, man. We're doing it live.
It was hilarious. Dan was amazing in this episode.
He was. It captured the, for lack of a better term, psychosis with it. Like, to the point of, like, literally we all know he's, programming computers that aren't plugged in. So he's already quite out of his mind. But with that scene, it captured it so perfectly that he's off his rocker.
Yeah.
And there's another scene later too.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is like, dude, he made a zombie gash out with zombie computer chip. Like, I don't know what powering his computer. That evil tower that's so red. I'm like, whose computer is this? Because they just pulled it out of production or something. Who has a tower like this?
He does, and he loaded graphite into the power cell, and he's running on a treadmill now.
What? Where did the treadmill come from?
I don't
Well,
know.
how else is he powering it?
Well, how else would graphite be powering it? He's got to, hamster on a
Maybe
wheel.
that's why he had to save the racing Bugster for later. He had to own his power. He had to put it into, he's finally had to power off his PC for a second.
Yeah,
Powered off. He doesn't have a power cable.
No, I know, because the Bugster was powering it. That's why he was only allowed to be out from one episode to draw Emu. It's like, alright, now your purpose is done. Go back to powering my PC.
Now go back and turn into a bike and let graphite ride you.
Yeah, sure. Oh, Graphite's riding him like, what, Deno?
Yeah, or
With this
like
freaking train.
that or equate it to
Oh, you know what it
X-Aid
is?
laser.
No, fuck you. Graphite's riding that bike on a train like Deno, except the train is the damn trains from original Tron.
Yeah, I can headcanon that.
Yeah.
I can headcanon that. But yeah, back to the thing. Hero wonders if there's a purpose investigating the past, and she can't bring back somebody who's lost. The detective starts going, "I'm worthless. I'm worthless. I'm a no good detective," and that brings back out the Bugster. At this point, we get Hero activating his two gas shots. Then we go back to the bridge where Emu activates the Mighty Brothers. Dan activates Zombie, and then they all presumably transform. And we get we get Ex-Aid level double XL and double XR, Zombie Ginham level 10, Brave level 5 full dragon, and the Bugster all in the same game area. Ex-Aid fighting Ginham, Brave fighting the Bugster. And then Snipe appears, already level 50, and Paradox appears out of nowhere in knockout fighter form, and they proceed to fight. And it's just a battle. 3 battles going on the same field. It's just crazy.
Although Paradox was kind of shoehorned into this episode.
He really was.
It was a decent fight, but he didn't need to be here for this one.
Well, except for maybe that one line. When Snipe and Paradox both do their finishers. And so they both get knocked out of their transformation, and Paradox goes, "We should both be wary of Ginham. He's trying to surpass the concept of levels."
See, that would have been great foreshadowing if it came several episodes in advance, but it literally comes 5 minutes before he does the thing.
Look, Ma, I did a thing.
Honestly, I'm just glad that people are using the power-ups again.
Oh yeah, that happened a lot.
They've been using power-ups for a while now.
I know, I'm glad they brought it back, because they kind of dropped that whole idea once Paradox showed up.
Perfect Puzzle has only been built around using the power-ups.
Yeah.
Right, but it once Paradox showed up and was using Perfect Puzzle, everybody else stopped using them. Granted, it was primarily only Ex-Aid.
You mean everyone else?
Yes, everybody else using the power-ups.
Yeah, I think they're just like letting Peardo do his thing because like that's his one gimmick. So I guess for a while they didn't want anybody else to just step on his gimmick or whatever. But now I guess it's so established, it's fine. Yeah, you're right. That foreshadowing was good, but I'm like, yeah, a little bloody late, bro. I also like you know, when they fight and it's like, yeah, as expected from someone with more XP. I'm like, that's cute. Because you know, Taiga's a veteran fighter and Peardo's like a pretty damn good buckster, so their fight was pretty awesome. As for like, oh, Peardo just showed up, I'm like, yeah, now it feels like a standard Rider versus Rider show. Why are we fighting? Who the hell cares? Let's just cram as many as we can. I mean, at least it was a good fight. You know, a good fight. More Ryuki than some of the more recent Rider versus Rider shows where it's like, oh, let's just stick them in one area and just have a random brawl.
I hope Rider versus Rider doesn't become like an average thing.
A bit late for that. I mean, Heisei Riders, like, at this point, what, like, a third of them are Rider versus Rider shows?
I think a third is stretching it a little bit, but...
But yeah, fair enough. I mean, we got, let's see, Ryuki, like... Gaim,
Ex-Aid.
Ex-Aid, Decade, Blade, kind of, Kabuto.
I wouldn't really consider shows that have moments where the writers fight each other a Rider versus Rider series. I wouldn't count Blade.
Okay, then Kabuto instead of that. So that's 5 of them. And there's like, how many writers? Like 17 or 16 or whatever Heisei Riders?
Yeah, we're on like 17 or 18. It got confusing because they started switching to the half mark.
Yeah. I'll count it up. But yeah, that's at least like 5 Rider versus Rider shows.
Yeah, I think Ex-Aid is 17.
Right, but then you have like parts. Yeah, I mean, I hope it doesn't become formula, but at this point it is formula, so at least Ex-Aid's doing it, you know, like making a good Rider versus Rider show and a good Rider show in general, as opposed to just using the tropes and just like, alright, we need filler, let's just all jump into the fight and have a brawl that means nothing.
Ex-Aid is, Heisei Rider's 18.
Yeah, I was gonna say Ex-Aid is 18 because Gaim was 15.
I just pulled up the icon.
I remembered that Gaim is 15 because they had the special movie.
So yeah, Ex-Aid uses the action robot's critical finish in the what is it called? Heat slasher. This knocks get him out of his transformation. Hero uses a muscle up and does a Dragonite critical finish, defeating the Buckster. At which point Dan observes the Buckster's data. The 3 remaining good riders confront, I guess would be the better word, who says the riders and Bucksters are all part of the ultimate game, Kamen Rider Chronicle, which is a game where ordinary people transform into Kamen Riders and fight monsters in the real world, and survival game with lives at stake. Anything to say?
This whole episode leading up to this was really heavy on like hitting you in the feels, because it kept referencing and it tied together really well, like this little side stories involving like the backstories of the rest of the characters, how it's all tied together into this thing that Dan was basically being a total douche nozzle on. And like, because we've all been led to believe up until this point that Dan killed Kiria over him finding out that Dan or that Emu had the Buckster virus. That's what it was you were led to believe with the way they edited it and cut all that. And to find out that that's not why it was, is just literally because Dan is an ass. It made the way the way Dan acts during the scene all the more creepy and psychotic, and it made M sound Emu's more passionate and calls him out on it.
So this has been said before, but this just kind of really cements the idea that the writers right now are just beta testers for Kamen Rider Chronicle.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, like, I never fully bought that he killed, like, Kiria just because he knew that Emu had the Well, he was the origin point of the Bugs Rise or whatever. Uh, because I'm like, that would eventually come out. Like, uh, it's most likely like, yeah, uh, Laser probably figured out something that would really put a hindrance to Kamen Rider Chronicle, or at that point, whatever Dan's plan was. Um, but, like, okay, so I guess his transformation of the fusion of Guy from Ryuki and Ryoma from Gaim is complete. Mixed in with a little bit of Digimon, I guess, and Kamen Rider, so why not? Um, Man, that is one crazy fucker. Especially because he's like taunting them after he got his ass kicked. I'm like, that is risky, man. Especially because like you almost tipped Emu over the edge where he's just like, what the hell? This isn't a joke, man. People's lives are at risk. I'm like, holy shit, Emu, man, like, back off, bro. You're gonna like toss him off that cliff or something. I'm like, I wonder if that would have solved the problem. And then like Dan just kicks him. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Dan can actually fight, sort of. So I'm like, okay, if anybody was thinking, oh, Emu, just throw him over the edge, you would solve everybody's problems right now, or whatever. I'm like, yeah, it's not that easy. Because, Dan still fights back. Man, he actually, like he loses the fight, and then he, like, kicks Emu, like, twice during their, like, conversation afterwards, and then, like, they henshin and then they fight, and, like, apparently Dan is now fucking, a wizard or something, because, like, how did he get out of that? Oh, one of the maids, did he steal a damn teleportation ring? Is that why he had the wizard ring on, which is such bullshit? Like, why did he have the wizard gash out for the first thing? Like, his whole thing is hope. That doesn't make any goddamn sense at all. Dan having wizard's powers is fucking bullshit. But, I mean, if he somehow did manage to get that data, I mean, that would explain how he got out of there. I mean, he could have just de-henshin and ported away, but I don't know. Like, his driver is weird. I'm not sure if it 100% does the same thing that the others do.
So, yeah. Emma's pissed about all the people who Dan has sacrificed for his project and goes, he'll say that to you, he'll avenge him. Kirito goes zombie again after saying something about level X. And Snipe and Brave go, level X as in an unknown number? Which I thought was, yeah, the good guys get it, whatever. So Emu says that he'll stop Dan and goes double X. And then he apparently seemingly deals a major blow to Gim, but Gim disappears. There's something said in the end about Emu carrying the hopes of people who have died. Anything up to this point?
There's actually something that I forgot I wanted to talk about, which was when Ganem absorbs the Bugster. The other writers finally acknowledge, what are you doing? And he's been openly doing this for like the past 7 episodes. They're just now seeing it. They've been doing this. He's been doing it right in front of them every time. Has their backs been turned every single time?
I mean, he didn't, like, the first couple, like, the first one he was, like, behind the tree or whatever, and then, like, I think one of the other ones he was to the side, where it's just the Bugster gets defeated and he collects the data. It's like you don't see him fighting or being henshin, but yeah. Like, at this point, at least 3 or 4 times they should have seen him do this. So, I mean, I guess better late than never.
It comes down to that whole question we had a few episodes ago. Why is nobody tackling Ganem when he's literally de-henshining and just walking away?
I know, it's weird. Like, I wish, like, the explanation was like, yeah.
He literally doesn't even jump or anything. He just walks.
I know, it's so stupid. I wish it would have been like his driver works the same as them and he's smart enough just to de-henshin from like a different location. Or like henshin in from a different spot, port in, fight, like de-henshin and just port away. Like, it's so simple. But like, I mean, Peridot, at least you have the excuse that he can teleport, so whatever. But yeah, it's probably one of the major flaws the show has. Like, you have an explanation show, just use it.
Right. Instead, it comes down to we see something happening. No, we shouldn't interfere in that.
Yeah, man, we need them for the plot. It's so dumb. Anyway, let's keep going.
So yeah, the episode more or less ends with Poppy stealing some of Hero's cake because why the heck not? And that's the end of the episode.
There was also another thing that I forgot I wanted to talk about. Back earlier in the episode when Emu decides that he's going to go interrogate Masamune, Hiro tries to stop him, telling him, "No, you're not a detective. You shouldn't be trying this." And again, pushes Emu up against a wall, being like, "Don't. This could be dangerous to your life."
Yeah. Hero is the Kamen Master.
Okay, I was gonna say that's a little aggressive, but I'm like, yeah, it really shows that like Hiro doesn't want Emu to die now. Like, they've come a long way. This writer 1 and 2.
Yeah, it's showing that Hiro has compassion and feelings that, were hidden through the first 15 episodes.
Yeah, I mean, especially this episode where, like, the way he's talking, like, what's the point of looking into all this or, going over it, investigating stuff for people who are dead. It's not going to bring them back. So, like, it's just showing his mentality of how he's dealing with it. It's like, remember them a little bit every once in a while, but, like, internalize it. Just get on with your life, man, because they're not coming back. And so, yeah, I mean, these last couple episodes with Hiro have been showing, like, maybe he hasn't been doing things. I'm not going to say the right way or wrong way, but, like, maybe he should be doing it a little more differently. So that's interesting.
And as for the Poppy thing, real quick, they had to give her something cute to do this episode.
Yeah, it was pretty cute.
Did they though?
Well, it's Poppy. It's just now par for the course and expected for her to do something cute now.
Give me more Poppy with Bergaimon.
She'd have to be dead, bro.
No, just bring Bergaimon back to life.
Come on, that guy should be able to make that shot again.
He wouldn't be the same. They're born from the game, right? Like, I don't know, maybe, like, the code disappears.
And absorb the code.
Like, maybe he'll come back, no. They just took the Gashat, right? Once they destroyed him. Like, maybe they could destroy it if they...
He destroyed the Bugster and took the Gashat.
Yeah, maybe they could destroy it if they get the Gashat back. Maybe. Yeah, sure. I mean, Laser's coming back, why not, right?
But that's only for the movie.
Hopefully.
And the miniseries. Yeah, hopefully.
Which we still don't know
So-
when those take place, so...
I forget
I
the
mean, the
miniseries.
mini-
is the thing.
Yeah, the
I don't think
miniseries
it's a
is...
miniseries. It's just a spin-off
It's a
movie.
yeah, it's a 3-parter. But the thing is, like,
Wait, what's a 3-parter?
the miniseries.
Which miniseries?
The fucking Go Rangers one with Laser.
I thought that was only a one. I thought that was a one-off movie.
No, that's Brave's one. Laser's one's in multiple parts. I think it's 3 parts or something. Like how Taiga's one's in like 4 or 5 parts.
Tigers is in as many Blu-rays as they release with the series.
Yeah, which, at least 4.
So yeah, it was a good episode. Ready to see where we go next episode because it does look like the patient of the episode began, which is interesting. At least it looks like it is, which is weird. So we'll have to see where that goes.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. We got a bunch of major revelations dropped on us. Apparently Y2K was actually a super huge problem. Yeah. I love it when just things take like history, like real events, and mix in just a little bit of fiction with it to work with it.
Like I liked the episode. It tied a lot, or what I considered a lot of like loose ends that they just kind of threw up for like the sake of one episode or for character explanations. For the way that the characters acted, the way they tied it all in for this whole overall thing, that they actually tied it together. I'm as much as I hate Dan as a character, his actor is phenomenal. he has mastered the art of crazy.
Agreed.
He shoots that scenery like no one else.
He makes a great villain.
Especially that smile when he henshins. It's just disturbing to see.
So yeah.
But like, if they keep the episodes the way the last couple have been, I will have no problem with the rest of Ex-Aid.
So yeah, it looks like I think that's all for this episode. I guess join us next time for episode 22, the Conspired History. Bye.
See you next time.
Thanks for joining us.
Later, everyone. See you next time.